Okay guys, here is the album we're going to be making today. This is great for Halloween. It's using Cartabella, oh no, my goodness, Graphic 45's latest line. So this is their 2021 Halloween line. I just love it because it's not too cutesy, but it's not too frightening, and it has all the perfect colors for Halloween with the purple and the black and the oranges. So I made this. There's going to be two projects, which I talk about in a little bit, but I have one collection kit and a card pack that I used, and this project actually really did not require a lot of paper. I think in total I used about 3 sheets of paper and then a couple of cards from the kit, but you'll see a longer walkthrough at the end. I just want to give you a sense of what you'll be making if you're following along and making this for yourself in the tutorial. But if you go to about 2 minutes from the end, you'll see the full, more detailed walkthrough and a bit more commentary around what I did. So I hope you love this and enjoy making it, and we'll see you in a bit. Hey everyone, I'm excited to share my next project with you. These are the materials we're going to be using for this little album. This is going to be a 6x6 mini with a 1/2 inch spine, and I just want to show you the paper kit we're going to use. So I'm making 2 projects from this paper because I have to say Halloween is probably one of my favorite times of year, and I love this year's collection Midnight Tales from Graphic 45. It is absolutely stunning. If you love Graphic 45, I think you will love this. If you don't love Graphic 45 but you love Halloween, it is really hard to say no to this paper. So what I thought I was going to do is create 2 albums. One will be an 8x8, and this will be my main feature page, and then the other one is going to be a 6x6, and it's probably only going to use about 3 to 4 sheets of paper from the collection kit, but I definitely will be using this one, and this sort of was my inspiration for that little album. The other thing we're going to use that I picked up was this pack of journaling and ephemera cards. So I think there are 32 pieces in here. Yep, there are 32 pieces in here. Half of them are 4x6 cards, and then the other half of them are 3x4 cards. So you get 16 of each, and these are fantastic for waterfalls or just you're decorating. But I'm just going to do a quick run through and show you some of the cards. Like, look at the black cat. I just love that. So really, really gorgeous designs. And so the nice thing too is that some of the cards are faced vertically, and then other cards are horizontal so that you can do waterfalls in various different ways. Okay, so I'm going to be using some of these for my 6x6 album and then also for the 8x8. But the nice thing is you will be able to get 2 projects out of all of this collection kit and these cards, and you'll probably have some left over for a layout or 2 as well, or some cards if you're a card maker. So without further ado, let's get started on this sweet little Halloweeny album. Okay, so here are the tools we're going to use for the project. Of course, we're going to be using our 110-pound cardstock sheets for the album. And then my cutter. I have also my scoreboard. Because this is a mini 6x6, I pulled out my small scoreboard so I don't have to deal with the big one. We're also going to be using some art glitter glue, and we'll be binding everything together with this double-sided tape. Okay, so let's get started. Before I get into too much of the cutting, I just want to note a couple of things, which I note at the beginning of all my tutorials. I will read out all my measurements to you as height by width, so you know which way your paper is facing. The other thing we're going to do is cut, score, and then stick together, so we build as we go. We don't have any pieces kind of hanging out to the side and having to remember what goes where. So we're going to build as we go. So let's start out with the front cover, and I promise you this is going to be a really quick little album. There are only about, I think, 3, 4, 5, 10, about 12 pieces that we have to cut for this. So it's super fast and easy. So let's start out with the front cover. And so you're going to take your cardstock and measure it out at 6 1/4 by 7 1/4. Okay, so 6 1/4 by 7 1/4. So this is actually the front flap of our album. So we're going to put this onto our scoreboard, and you're going to run the longer side. So your 7 1/4 inch side is running along the top of the scoreboard, and you're going to score this at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. Okay, so the first score mark is where we're going to fold it to attach the back cover, And then the second score mark at 1 inch is creating the 1/2 inch spine for us. Okay, so there we go. And then just fold those in. Okay. And so what we'll do right now is actually get your score tape out. Okay, so this is our front cover, and we're going to put our score tape along the inside of this first folded piece. So from the edge to the first score line, go ahead and put your score tape down on this inside fold. The nice thing that I like about this album is that it is a 6x6. So if you're using a 6x6 pad, there's not a lot of crazy trimming to do as you start to decorate. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna cut out the back piece. So for the back, you're simply gonna cut out a square in 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. Okay, so we have a 6 1/4 inch square. Okay, now we can bring back our front cover piece and we will stick these together like this. Okay, so just peel back a corner here and fold it in towards you. And then grab your back piece, line it up against sort of that first score mark, and make sure you're not covering the score line. Otherwise you won't get a nice flippy fold. And just slowly pull the tape out there. Okay, great. So we've already got the back cover, sort of the base of the back and the front cover. So now let's go ahead and cut the right hand side. And don't worry about the scraps. We're going to end up using these for waterfalls, so we will use them. We're not wasting a ton of paper. Okay, so now for the right hand side, you're going to again cut a 6 1/4 by 7 1/4 inch piece. So 6 1/4. By 7 1/4, and again let's score this at 1/2 and at 1. So your 7 1/4 inch side is along the top of your scoreboard, and your 6 1/4 inch side is along the side here. And go ahead and score that at 1/2 and at 1. What I love about this little album is it's great to gift, and it's really easy to put the base together, so you get to the fun part of decorating pretty quickly in this type of album. Okay, so again, I'm going to take my score tape and I'm going to put it on the inside fold right here between the edge and the first score line. Okay, and then we'll grab our base back, and now we're going to attach it to the right hand side. So same thing. Peel back a corner of your score tape, and we do this because we don't want to commit this whole sticky piece out until we can line everything up nicely like so. Okay, just line that up, and once everything looks good, just pull out your score tape backing, and there we go. We've already got the front, the base, and the side done. All right, let's go ahead and work on this side, which is simply just a fold out piece. So for this piece, you're going to work on 2 pieces to make sort of this gatefold. And actually, sorry, it opens up vertically like this. So for the gatefold, you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 6 1/4 by, now get this, and there's a method to my madness, 3 9/16 of an inch. So I'm sorry to do that to you, but it's important because I want them close together without overlapping. 9/16 of an inch is basically 1/2 an inch plus 1/8 of an inch on your cutter. So I apologize now, but it will work for us. Okay, so I'm going to see if one of my scraps will work for this, and it will. So let's go ahead and cut 2 pieces at 6 1/4. Okay, so I've got my 6 1/4 and 3 9/16. So 1/2 is 8/16, 1/2 an inch. So just one little nudge over. Oh my goodness, sorry, my light turned off. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I don't really know why my light source went off, but we're gonna do it this way with less light, but hopefully everything is still clear to you. So what we were doing is cutting 2 pieces at 6 1/4 by 3 9/16. And what I was telling you was that 9/16 is just 1/8 of an inch past 1/2 an inch, okay? All right, so there's 1. And then again, 6 1/4 by 3 9/16. 2, okay, and we're going to score these. So we're going to put the score mark along the long side. So you're going to score this at 1/2. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, we'll just fold that over. Okay, and bring back your album, open it up, and so these are going to be stuck on the right hand side like this, one on the left and one on the right, and hopefully they really they should be just touching each other, not overlapping. Okay, so the reason for that madness is that I know I'm going to use one of the 6 by 6 sheets that I'm going to just cut in half, so I want there to be continuity in the pattern. Okay, so let me just move this for a second so you can see what I'm doing. I'm now putting score tape on the outside of the fold right here. There's 1. And 2. Okay, and we'll just bring back our album, make some space here. So I'm going to just stick the first piece down over here just to the right of this score line. Okay, so just folded that out. I'm lining everything up top to bottom and across. Just pull this out. There we go, and then we can go ahead and stick down the other side. There we go. So perfect. We have little gate folds and they just meet up without overlapping. Okay, now we're going to work on the centerpiece. So the centerpiece has 2 main elements. One is a waterfall, and then we have some closure flaps. So let's work on the waterfall first. It's very easy. We're going to cut 5 pieces that each measure 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to cut, you can get 2 of them out of your 8 1/2 by 11 sheet if you start cutting, putting the paper horizontally and measure out your first 4 3/4 mark. So let's just do 2 of them together. So we're going to cut up 4 3/4, and the second one again 4 3/4, and then just flip it and cut at 6 1/4 and 6 1/4. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and cut 5 of those. And once you're done, we'll come back. So you might want to pause here, cut 5 of those cards, and then we'll come back and take a look at how to put them into the album. Okay, so you should have 5 of these waterfall pieces cut. Again, they are 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. So now what you're going to do is put them with the short side running across the top and score them at 1/2 an inch. Okay, so we're going to score, each of these 5 cards at 1/2 an inch. That, and what I want you to do is just fold that over and then put your score tape down on the outside of this fold here. So from the edge to the first little, well, there's only one score line. Okay, so go ahead and put down your tape and do this to all 5 pieces, and you might want to press pause now and go ahead and do that, and then when you come back we'll attach them to the album. Okay, so I've got all my 5 pieces ready to go and stick in the album, but before we can stick these in, we're going to have to make the bottom and top flaps that enclose this section. So let's do that first. So let's set these aside and we'll come back to those in just a minute. So these are actually, I think these are the last 2 pieces of the base of the album that you're going to need to cut. So you're going to cut 2 pieces. The first piece is the bottom flap, and that's going to measure 3 3/4 by 6 1/4. Okay, so at this point I start scrounging around in my scraps to see what I've got. So 3 3/4 by 6 1/4. So this is going to be my bottom piece. So I'll just put that here for a second. And for my top piece, I'm going to measure 5 3/4 by 6 1/4. So 5 3/4 by 6 1/4. Okay, there we go. All right, so what I've got here are my top and my bottom flaps to close over the waterfall. So these are going to have a little 1/4 inch spine so that I have space in my waterfall to put pictures and for any bulk that might be there. So I want to score along this longer side. So I'm going to put for the bigger piece, run your 5 3/4 side along the top, and you're going to score down here along your 6 1/4 side. And what you're going to do here is score in 2 places. You're going to score at half, okay, because this is where we're attaching it, and at 3/4. Okay, so we've got a little 1/4 inch spine. I'm pushing a little harder because this is the heavier cardstock. Okay, so we just scored this at half and 3/4, and let's do that with the smaller piece as well. So you will score this again at half and 3/4 to create this little spine. Okay, and I think we can put this away for now. And I still need my bone folder because I'm going to use it to fold these up. So fold along both of those score lines of these pieces. Okay, there's my bottom and my top. Okay, great. So now you have the 2 pieces ready to go. I want you to get your score tape and put that along the attachment portion here. So along your sort of between the edge and your first score line on both of these. There we go. And so there's my top and my bottom, and I'm just going to bring back my little album base here. So let's open this up. We have our right side with our gatefolds. So this is going to sit in this center section right here, like this. Okay, so let's attach them. Okay, so I'm going to just peel off bottom edge and just line this up along the bottom of your base. So end to end, right at the bottom edge. Okay, just hold that down once it's all lined up. There we go. And same for the top. So line that up, edge to edge. Make sure you've got nothing overlapping the score lines anywhere on the edges. Okay, and there we go. So that opens up like this. And now we can attach our waterfalls. So now we'll attach our waterfalls. So let's start with the first one, and we are going to attach them right up to the top edge of this piece that we just glued down. So you'll see your 2 score lines here. So you're going to attach this folded edge to right against the second score line. So 1, 2, this is where it's going to go. So it will line up with the top edge of your album. Okay. So just peel this back, and now be very careful attaching the waterfalls. You want to make sure they're straight on left, right, and top. And once everything looks good, you can pull your tape out. Okay, so let me just show you if you can see that. I want to make sure you can see that where I've glued this down. So this is my little 1/4 inch spine, and it's right next to it here. Okay. All right. So there's one. So we're going to just continue with these. So again, just fold that back. Now this one you butt up against the bottom of the one you just stuck down, right? Make sure everything looks straight. The other thing I like to do before committing is I fold the top one down and make sure that they're nicely lined up before I do anything. There you go. So if you have a little bit of tape hanging off the edge and you just kind of run your nail along it, you can tuck it under and it will disappear. Okay, so here's the third one. So again, pay attention to your edges, fold the top piece down, make sure everything looks straight. This one looks like it needs a little nudge. There we go. There. And we'll put in the last one. Oh no, this is the fourth one. We have one more after this. So that looks good. And the last one. So hopefully if everything's lined up, this one should line up nicely across the bottom as well. Like that. And that's it. So there's our waterfall pages. So we've got room for plenty of pictures here as well. Okay, and then this will close up like this. So the last thing that I'm going to tell you is that I have, I put a belly band on this left-hand side, and we can't really do it until it's time to decorate the album. But if you want to cut the piece for the belly band, you can decide how thick you want it to be. I usually go with about 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches wide, depending on the paper that I'm using. But you can go ahead and cut this piece for the belly band at 6 1/4 again by 1.5 to 2 inches, depending on how wide you want it to be. So I'm going to wait until I go to decorate and choose my paper, and then I'll figure out how to cut this. But essentially, we're done with the base of the album, and we can move on to decorating the album itself. So I'm going to show you a couple of my decorating tips and how I'm decorating this album. I'm going to do a little brad closure here, which is like, you know, one of my favorite ways to close up sections of the book. We may do one here. We'll see how I feel about it. And I'm going to likely use some ribbon to keep this all closed. So I'll show you that as well. Okay, so here comes some of my design tips. You can skip through this section if you want to just kind of get to the final product, but I thought it'd be interesting just to show you some of the things that I like to do with the albums. So first thing is I really like to edge in ink. And so in this case, because it's black paper, it won't show up everywhere, but it definitely, like, sometimes you can see kind of the white on the edges. It gets rid of that, and I love that it gives it a bit of an antique look. So in this case, I chose Ranger's Distress Oxide in Black Soot. So that is a very dark grayish ink, and I'm using one of these blender brushes. So quite simply what I do, I'll just put a piece of scrap under here, is just start blending off the edges and creating this nice sort of little shadow along the edges. I really like the way this looks on the paper, and especially for like a Halloween album. So let me just show you. So you can really see that there versus the edge that's not finished. So that's one of the things that I like to do. So I thought I would share that with you. What we're going to do now is I'm actually going to show you how to attach the ribbon to make a ribbon closure for this album. So you do need to select the patterned papers that you're going to use for the front and the back covers. So you can go ahead and do that. Maybe press pause and come back with that. If you want to ink, then ink your sheets as well to get ready. And we'll go ahead and come back and install the front and back covers. Install sounds like we're putting in, I don't know, tiles, but I guess it is kind of like that, isn't it? And we'll do the ribbon piece as well. Okay, so I have my little album here, and it's got the front is facing me, and this will be my front pattern paper, and I'm going to use the pumpkins for the back. But before I stick those down, I know I'm going to use a ribbon closure, so I want to do that first. So what I have here is, let me just measure this. I measured out, it's about 30-inch piece of ribbon that I have. It just depends on how you like to close your album. So I would like to have like a nice bow with some extra ribbon hanging down. So that's sort of how I chose the length. So first thing I'm going to do is just cut this in half. Okay, so I've got 2 even pieces. And what I'm going to do is stick one piece. So this album is going to tie up on the side here. I chose that because I don't want to cover any of the front cover with ribbon. I really like this cover, the All Hallows Eve. So I want to make sure that that still shows. So what we're going to do is quite simply take our ribbon and go in about 2 inches, that should do it, and stick this ribbon down. So I use a couple of different methods. So you can use score tape. Score tape is actually very strong. So let me just show you one piece with score tape. And there shouldn't be too much tugging here anyways. So as long as you put it in far enough, you should be safe. So in this case, I'm using score tape. So I'm going to position it right in the center. Let me just get this piece out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to put this right here where I want the bow to be. Okay, it looks like that frayed a little, so I'm going to cut it off. Okay, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing on the back. Okay, just line them up, and that'll go about there. And on the back, you can use art glitter glue if you like. I'm going to keep going with my score tape just because I don't want to have to wait for the art glitter glue to dry. But I'm cutting off my score tape. And you can either stick it to the ribbon or stick it to the back of the album like this. Okay, and then just put the ribbon down on top of that. There we go. So now we can go ahead and put down our patterned paper and cover that all up like so. Okay, so for the patterned paper, then I do switch to my art glitter glue. I know some people use a glue stick and then a brayer. What you just need to make sure you do is go very close to the edge of your patterned paper. So it's really good to have this little metal tip because it lets you get really, really fine lines out and close to the edge. So that is key so that corners and things don't start lifting. And then you definitely want to have enough glue all over it so it doesn't pucker. Okay, and you do have to work a little bit quickly here. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the album because I'm gonna also use my brayer to smooth everything down, so I don't wanna crush anything from the inside. So I've just opened the album right up, and I'm gonna stick down my patterned paper. You can also mat this if you like on top of another color, if you like to do layering look. I'm just keeping it simple in this case, but there is, you have about 1/8 of an inch on each side to be able to do that. Okay, so then I like to just get my brayer and make sure my glue is nice and spread out, especially down over the ribbon, and just smooth that right out. Okay, there we go. So that is my back cover done with my ribbon. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the front cover. So I will keep the book open like this. I'm going back with my glue right close to the edge as possible on all 4 sides, very nice and close to the edge. If some of the glue seeps out, it does dry clear. So don't worry too much. You might see a little bit on the black, but okay. And then I just go put a generous amount. And you have to be quick. This dries quick, so you want to be quickly putting it down so you don't see any of the squiggles anywhere. Okay, but there we go. I'm just going to go back with my brayer. Okay, you don't have to press too hard, just gently, but this just makes sure there's no air pockets and what have you inside. Okay, so that part's done. So now I have this beautiful closure here. Just adds a little bit to these little mini albums that you can just tie it up. I use black, purple, orange, those colors would look great here. But there we go. So that's how that will look. Okay, oops, sorry for the bounce there. I want to show you guys this little brad closure that I've been doing recently. And first of all, it avoids using a ton of magnets in your album. But secondly, and most importantly, I think it looks way cuter than magnets. So what you need to do is actually figure out what patterned paper you want to use first before any of this starts happening. So I decided to use one of these squares, and what I did, because I want sort of continuity of pattern, is I just cut it to size for the top and this little bottom flap, and then once I open this, I'll just put some other patterned paper here, but I want it to be one scene when it's closed. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a little closure right here. We're going to attach this with a brad, and this is going to keep this section closed. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so first thing is, let's just get this out of the way. Because I need to put it down at the bottom. This is where this closure will sit. And the way this is going to work is that I'm going to attach it to a brad, and it's just going to swivel out of the way and allow you to open the rest of the album. So it needs to be attached to your decorative pattern, like your pattern paper, for this bottom piece. So first thing you want to do is kind of line it up and see where do you want to put it, okay? So I want it to be about there, and I know I need it to swing out of the way, so that actually works really well. So it's going to be at the center of the bottom in this case. Okay, and now I'm going to attach this to my patterned paper, and you might notice a bit of a glitch in the video. It's because I made a mistake and I poked a hole too high, and so when I went to go check if this mechanism would work, it was actually in the way. So I need it to be a little bit lower. So what I've decided is I want to line up the bottom edge of this with the bottom edge of the patterned paper. Okay, so I'm going to take the cat out for a second to make sure I do this properly this time. And I like to show you the mistakes because it's good to see how to fix them. So I can still use this piece of paper. What I'm going to do, and since this is black, I'm going to flip it over so I can see better what I'm doing. I'm lining this up. This already has a little hole in it, so I'm lining it up where I want it to go, and it's going to come just past the bottom of the paper, and I'm just going to go with my pen and make a mark. Okay, so that's where my brad is going to go. So I'm going to poke a hole right there where I just made my pen mark. Okay, let's flip it over. Okay, that should be enough here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cat back where it was into this top piece, and now we can go and insert into the bottom piece. So now before we stick anything down, you can open this up. Okay, and let's make sure that once this is where this is going to get stuck down, that when I swivel it, it actually does get out of the way, and it does. So finally, I got it right. Okay, so once you have done that piece, you can go ahead and stick your patterned paper down. So I'm going to do that just so you can see how this will all work. Now, be careful and do not put glue where you want your brad. Don't let the glue touch your brad, because otherwise it will not swivel properly. Okay, but make sure you got enough glue. Maybe a little too close to the brad, so I'm just going to wipe that up. Okay, and I'm going to glue this down here to the bottom of this panel. Okay, and I'm just going to swing this out of the way, make sure it's swinging, and bring this top piece down and stick down my patterned paper on the top just so everything lines up. go, and just line this up. You should have enough for a little bit of a border. You want to make sure it lines up with the border on the bottom piece. Just stick that down. And there you go. So we swivel that up and keeps this center section nicely closed, and it looks super cute. So there's how that works. Now, like, granted, if you used a magnet, it would obviously hold it down tight, but I really like this. I like the way it looks. I like the little interactive mechanism and everything else. So I'm going to continue decorating. I don't have any more sort of special design tips for you. Just now it's about choosing your patterned papers and putting it all together. So when we come back, I will show you my finished product and how I decorated the rest of this little guy. Okay guys, so I finished decorating. I'm just going to do a quick run through. You did see this at the beginning, but now that you've done the tutorial, you can kind of see how it's finished up. So I love the way this turned out and how quick and easy it was to put together. So I've added the belly band over here like we talked about, and I just stuck in a couple of cards and mats for extra photos. Maybe a little journaling spot as well, so that the person I'm giving this to can kind of customize this the way that she likes. Okay, so remember it's a trifold, so we open up this side. I had these little embellies in my stash. I thought they're so cute, so I just stuck them up on top of there. I used one of the stickers from the collection kit. So remember, this opens up, and here's what I wanted to do and why I insisted this was cut at such interesting measurements. So I used one of the 6x6 cut aparts from the kit, and I lined up the pattern so it just looks like the one sheet until you open it up. So you'll see I use the same pattern inside. This is a small album, and if you start using too many different patterns in a space, it kind of wrecks the continuity, and I want her to have as much space to put photos in as well without interrupting that continuity. So that's why I used the same pattern throughout this intersection. But that closes up, and I really, really love the way this turned out. And at the middle section that we talked about, that I showed you how to attach the brad, I ended up completing inside of that. She really loves little kitty paper. I showed her this kit, and she commented on that. So I tried to incorporate it lots of places as I could. And so we open up down here at the bottom, and I'm trying to see if I can get the whole spread in here for you. But here's the center waterfall piece. So I only decorate the top of the card because this section would be for photos. So we have some space for journaling here, whatever. The only thing I did do differently is on this last waterfall card, I attached these two cards with a little flip. And I just did that by adding in a 1-inch binding. So I like that, just to have a little bit of more interactive section here. So other than that, that is it. I really love the way this turned out. I hope that you guys make this too. And I hope you let me know what you think down in the comments. So again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I love making this stuff for you guys. I'll keep it coming. And thank you so much again for watching. Talk to you soon.